Okay, so thank you for invitation. And today I would like to present the results of our research of the capacocha from the Ampato. We make many research during the last 5 years. We have the project that we are making together with Museo Santuarios Andinos in Arequipa. And we are collaborated with this museum in charge of investigation of the mummies, in my part because I'm bioarchaeologist. So we investigate the mummies from Ampato and the capacocha from the Pichu Pichu and Misti. But today my presentation will be more focused on the last study of the Ampato mummies that we have published in Journal of Archaeological Science reports. But we have also the other projects that are related with investigation of the ceramic that are in charge of by Sylwia Siemianowska that is collaborating with us, making the model 3D and the documentation of the artifacts from the museum that Dominika Sieczkowska that is with us is in charge of. And also we plan some future works with archaeological sites that they are surrounding the Arequipa and that were investigated by Johann Reinhardt. Johann Reinhardt have discovered most of this mummy that were sacrificed as a capacocha, and of course he's a part of our project. We collaborate with him, and he was also co-author of the article that results I will be presenting during my speech today. So first, I will give a little bit introduction about general the capacocha sacrifice. So in this case, we are quite lucky because we have both the information from the Spanish source and archaeological findings that we could investigate. So from most of the chronic sources mentioned that Incas make the sacrifice, the human sacrifice, and there was couple of them. So capacocha is the most famous, and everybody know that Inca were making the sacrifice that was ritual sacrifice the children and the young woman for many important reasons that I will be referring in the moment. However, we know also that Incas make another type of sacrifice. One of them was, of course, necropampa, that were sacrifice of the people that were accompanying the important person like the Inca or important curacas, but probably existed also other kind of sacrifice that we didn't exactly find in archaeological sources, like the information for chronics that Incas also sacrificed the warriors and enemies that they captured during the battles. So in this case, we will be focusing on the information about and discovering of the capacocha sacrifice. And as I mentioned before, they were described by most of the chronicosaurs. We have here the three pictures from the chronic of Guaman Pomada Ayala, when we can see the Inca sacrificing the children for the Pachacamac Corpuna mountain. So according to the chronics, Inca choose for the capacocha sacrifice the children that they were coming from the province, and they were coming from the probably good houses, from the elite one, and a young woman from the Akrawasi. The victims supposed to be beautiful, virgin, and without any blemish. We have information, for example, for Ramos, that say that when during the capacocha sacrifice on the Lake Titicaca, on the breast of the victim was discovered small mole. She was cancer and she could not be sacrificed because they were thinking that this kind of sacrifice could be not accepted by the gods. And this is what we have from the chronics. However, the last year of investigation and also the previous investigation, for example, the mummy from El Pomo, had shown that the archaeological findings are in quite opposition to what we have from the chronological source. So from the chronics, we know that capacocha was making from different reasons that we can generally divide into three groups. So first one were related to the life of the imperial court in the capital of Inca in Cusco, which such event like giving birth for the heir of the throne, sickness and death of the Inca, taking the throne from the new Sapa Inca, or the war. And this capacocha were mainly taking in the main temples of the sun in Coricancha. However, from the chronic of Bernabo Cobo, we know that capacocha were making around the Cusco, and he mentioned 34 places where capacocha was celebrated for different reasons that were related not only for the life of imperial court, but also each such events like Fiesta Inti Rami, Kapak Rami, which is winter and summer solstice, but also the Itu festival that was also related with the capacocha sacrifice. And the second moment when the Incas made the sacrifice, it was not in their imperial capital, but on the provinces. And in these cases, Inca were coming as the protector of the local communities. And if something's jeopardize the life of the communities, Inca were coming as the protector and make the sacrifice in case of the earthquake, drought, but also eruption of volcanics. And we have also information that in case of epidemic, Inca also make the sacrifice for the most important of God on the provinces to appease the God. So of course, this is the information that we have from coins. However, we know that capacocha could have many deeper levels, and they are related also with expansion of the Inca Empire, with the indirect form of control by religious matter, but also in case of economical one, because capacocha were related with big sacrifices that were not only limited to the sacrifice on the top of the mountains when they were found, but also from probably some donation for the temple that received them. And to the present moment, we have only a couple findings of this. And when we look on the chronic sellers, we have information that even 200 children could be killed during the one capacocha. However, when we see the archaeological findings, we don't have as many sacrifices. And most of them were found in the high mountain because it was the place that was not looted as much as, for example, Cusco or the Pachacamac. And so this capacocha have preserved to the present moment. And I have opportunity to investigate the capacocha from Sarasara, Pichu Pichu, Misti, and Ampato. And some of these results are already published. However, today, as I say already, I will focus on one of them, the capacocha that was made on the Ampato mountain that is close to the city of Arequipa. And here we can see the drawing of the mountain made from National Geographic. And as we can see, here we have marked the route that take Johann Reinhardt during his expedition in 95 and 97, 96 and 97, when he discovered capacocha in two locations. So first of them was discovered on the top of the mountain, close to the summit, and it is famous mummy of Juanita. And unfortunately, her burial was partially destroyed because her tomb was collapsed and the mummy was found out of the grave. So we don't have exactly information about what kind of grave goods were deposited with her. We have only the mummy and three figures that were found also that they fell out from the grave, but we don't know exactly what was the original deposition and in this tomb. And the second site where Inca were making sacrifice on the Ampato is located a little bit lower on 5,800 meters above sea level. And on the small plateau, Johann Reinhardt discovered 3 more sacrificed the human mummies, the mummies that were sacrificed them, and some additional offerings that they were made, for example, the blue unku tunic that was separate buried in this area. So here we have the picture from the summit, from the expedition, that we can see the distance between these two places. On the top we have this burial of the famous mummy of Juanita, and on the bottom we have the burial of these other 3 mummies. So even if they were discovered in 95 and 97, they were not exactly object of many archaeological research, and some of them have to be repeated again. For example, the problem was the estimation of the age of the victims, because as showed the new analysis made, for the example, for the North Coast, the growth of the human teeth in the Andean region is a bit different than in European modern population. And most of archaeologists previous used this old model, so it shows up that this age was a bit more higher than probably in reality. So for example, for Juanita, her age was 7, saying that it was 15, 16 years old when she was sacrificed, when her third molar is not erupted, which means that she was more probably 13, 14. It's not big change, but still it's changed a bit. In 2 months ago, we make also the tomography of her using the new technique that shows also us some new damage that were not visible during this tomography that was made in 95, because now the resolution is better. For example, we discovered that not only her skull was broken by the blowing in the head, but also her pelvis was partially broken. Probably it happened when the mummy fell out from the grave and because of the heating, because it was quite impossible, so she can reach the summit with the broken pelvis bone. And this is the figure that were found with her, that I was saying that they are quite beautiful and impressive, made of gold and spondylus shell. And now I will be talking more about the 3 mummies because I make much more research of them. So first of them was defined as Ampato 2. It belongs to the probably female individual, and she was sacrificed in age of 6 years old. And she was wearing penacho, the headdress made of feathers from the parrots from the Selva region. And here we can see the new reconstruction that was made of this headdress. And during our research, we find that her mummy was hit by the lightning. And here we can see the trace when she was directly hit by the lightning, and it was partially burned the skull. And second mummy that was found on Ampato belonged to probably male individual. We can say that based on the figures that were found with him, because Incas buried the woman with the female figures and the tupus, and in case of the male, with the male figures and llama figures. We find these figures, as you can see, they also destroyed partially by the lightning. Because in this mummy also hit the lightning, and this is the preservation that is very bad. Here we have the picture when it's marked in which places the lightning hit directly the body. So it led to totally, that the body, the upper part was totally buried, and we have only the bottom part of the burial, when we have preserved nails that we could use to the analysis of isotope, genetic, and the diet. And here we can see also the marks of the hitting by the lightning, that the lightning hit directly in this burial and burned everything that was inside from the organic remains. And also the analysis of the bone skeletons had shown that this individual suffered from some malformation of the foramen traversum that we can see, for example, in the first vertebra, that here this opening is totally fused. So it means that this opening are used for the passage of the veins and nervous system. So if in this case it was blocked, probably veins supposed to go in different way, they were more exposed, and it's possible that this individual suffer from some blood circulation alternation and also maybe some problems with the nervous system. We don't know exactly, but it's very possible. And this is the last burial that was discovered on Ampato. It's also belonging to the female individual. Unfortunately, the upper part was destroyed probably by the pressure of the earth. And we find the spondylus figures that was having this small tupu pin, so we could establish that it was probably female individual. And because of the exposure of the bones, we could sample it without destroying the mummy and make some analysis. And we also made the radiography and tomography of all this mummy, but currently I don't have only rough data, so I will not present them. And this is ceramic that was found with them and other objects like the spondylus shell, sandals, and also the tunics. This one, the red one, was buried with the female individuals, which is also quite interesting because this is typical male tunic that was also described by the chronists that during this Itu festival, the people were wearing it, and it's kind of connected. So the method that I want to refer today that we are using, we use liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry, and we use it to investigate the consumption of the different drugs and alkaloids in the human hair. So generally, as we can see on the picture, the construction of human hair, there is 3 ways of introduction to drugs to the human hair. So one is by the blood that is connected with the fossil of the hair. Second is by sweat and sebum that also can contaminate the hair. And the third one is external factors. So these external factors can also be quite important. And there is one anecdote about investigation of the mummy from Egypt from the drugs, and archaeologists made the investigation of the nicotine, and they find it, which was quite surprising because tobacco was not growing in the old world before the discovery of the Americas. So everybody say, okay, we have a proof that connection between Africa and South America in the pre-Columbian times. But what happened, it was that this mummy were for very long time in the different collection in Europe. And in 19th century, it was quite common to smoke in this room. So they were smoking in the room when there were mummies and then contaminate the hair. And this is why they discovered nicotine in them. But this is why we also use very strict protocols to clean the hair, to have only internal part of it, to avoid any further contamination. Even in the case of the mummy, we know exactly the history of storage of them. So in case of investigation of the drugs, it's also quite important to know what we're exactly looking for. So we need to first choose which kind of alkaloids and metabolites we are looking for. And here I named the list of this one that we are exactly looking in the hair of the mummies. Some of them we find, I will go to this point. And we want to develop this project in the future for more substance and looking for them. So first what we were looking for was, of course, the coca leaves. Similar investigations were made for the Uyayako mummies. However, in case of this mummy, and they were only investigated for the coca leaves. So they didn't know if these children from Uyayako, other mountain, consume more drugs or not, because they were checking only for the coca leaves. So, of course, there are 2 species of coca that were using. One is Rixoderium coca, which was native for the Selva region of central Peru, and also then cultivated in southern Peruvian coas and northern Chile. And second is Rixoderium novagrense, which was cultivated in the north part of Peru. And as we can read here, the leaf of the coca have many alkaloids. We were searching of 3 of them. So first of them was, of course, cocaine, benzoglina, and the third one that is cocaethylene. And cocaethylene is very special kinds of metabolites because it appears in the human organism only when we consume coca leaves and alcohol in the same time. Then our organism produce this special metabolite and we can search for this kind of consumption. However, we didn't find cocaethylene in this study. And chewing the coca leaves have many effect on the human organism. Of course, it's not as strong as the cocaine, but still it make the pressure of the blood more faster. It elevates the level of the glucose. Also, the coca leaves have many vitamins and they reduce the feeling of hunger and make the ability of work higher. So it will also kind of important in the route from the Cusco to the Ampato mountain that these children could chew these coca leaves not only for the religious purpose, but also because it could help them in such long way. The second drug that we were looking for was Cactus San Pedro, that is strongly hallucinogenic and is growing on the Peruvian coast. Then we are looking also for the Vilca that was probably using by the Mocha. And the new research has shown that Vilca was adding, the seeds of the Vilca were adding to the chicha beer. So it have also some hallucinogenic effect that could not be known by the chronolysis because they just saw that the Incas were drinking alcohol, but they could not exactly know what kind of beverage was inside sometimes. And the third beverage that we want to investigate was ayahuasca. So in case of ayahuasca, it's a bit complicated because the term ayahuasca is referred to the 2 things. One of them is the lianas, Banserotopicapi, that they're main component of the ayahuasca beverage. However, the modern ayahuasca have addition of the other plants like Psychotria viridis, or the second one that I will be not reading, the Latin name. However, they are source of tryptamine. And generally, the working of this beverage is that the Bacillotopis is the source of harmine, and harmine blocks the disgustive of tryptamine. So if we just take the leaves of Psychotropia viridis and we eat them, there will be no effect. But if we mix these 2 plants, then it will be. So the results of course, this method have the limitation, but the results of our study is, that we find only the harmine. So it is quite interesting that there was no tryptamine, there was no mescaline. We find the cocaine, but there was no cocaethylene. So we can know, thanks to this analysis, that these children were, 3 of them were chewing the coca leaves, and 2 of them, Ampato 2 and Ampato 3, were also probably drinking or eating the Bacillotopis capis, this liana that they were coming from the Selva region. So it's quite important that we have only harmine, we don't have the tryptamine. So this beverage was probably not hallucinogen, it was only used for the reason why what harmine is give to our organisms. And as we can come back to this slide, I'm sorry, we can see that harmine is working and it's using now as antidepressive and anti-addictive treatment. So it blocked the disgust of the dopamine and serotonin in human organisms. And now it's researched if it has some more influence on the human organisms. However, we know from the chronies that for Incas, it was very important the children go happy to the gods. So to achieve this effect without heavily intoxicate them with the alcohol in the high mountain, maybe they use only the Bacillotopis capi. So generally the results of our study show the two possibilities. One is that ayahuasca was with the hallucinogenic tryptamines, but they were not introduced to the human organism because the introduction of tryptamine is quite weak and we just could not detect them. The second one that we are more into is that the Incas were probably used only these lianas of Banserota picapi because of their antidepressive treatment and because it was from religious purpose important for the children to be in the good mood in the moment when they were sacrificed. So basically, this is the results of our study. If you are interested, of course, they published, so it's possible to read a bit more about them. And we want to, of course, develop them to check also for the other substance, because maybe we didn't find the tryptamine, but we can find some other derivatives of there, like bufotenin or some other hallucinogen stuff like the fungus or Dauturia, that is also hallucinogenic, and it was probably also using during the pre-Columbian time. So thank you for your attention.